Let us now continue to look at the path of the great beings. Previously, we have already covered the intention aspect. Today, we will look at the application aspect, which includes cultivating the two kinds of bodhicitta. This part is really important. Cultivating the relative bodhicitta and the cultivation of the absolute bodhicitta. This part is so crucial. In fact, if you were to pay attention to this part, you would be able to see the pithy instruction of the Mahayana practice, even as short as the 37 stanzas of Bodhisattva can cover all of the practices. Let's look at the first one, is cultivating the exchange of oneself for others during meditative equipoise. And then the second one is bringing negative circumstances onto the path during post-meditation. I've particularly composed the textual outline of the 37 practices of a bodhisattva, but over here, this is a different textual outline. Even if we were to look at the textual outline of the 37 practices of bodhisattva, we should be able to see the content of it, see the extensive meaning of it. Without a commentary, we won't be able to understand fully of the meaning of each shloka. At the time of translation, I thought if each Khenpo and Khenpo can study it and then can teach it to the disciples, I think it should be fine. All suffering, without exception, spring from the desire for one's own happiness. Perfect enlightenment is born from a mind intent on benefiting others. Therefore, it is the practice of bodhisattvas to authentically exchange one's own happiness for the suffering of others. Here, in this place of cyclic existence, however many grave and trivial sufferings there may be, all of them spring without exception from holding oneself dear, from desiring one's own happiness. Whatever mundane or supreme happiness or supermundane happiness and benefits there may be, such as ultimate happiness at the level of perfect enlightenment, all spring or are born from a mind that wishes for the benefit of others, that holds others dear. Therefore, regarding others as more dear than oneself, one gives away whatever happiness and virtue one may possess to sentient beings, while having completely disregard for oneself. By means of taking upon oneself by the suffering and the evil that may be in the mind stream of other sentient beings, one exchanges happiness and suffering. In other words, one authentically reverses the true attitude of clinging to self-cherishing and casting others far away. This is the mode of practice whereby all bodhisattvas cultivate exchanging oneself for the others. The way of the bodhisattva states, whoever wishes to quickly protect himself or herself and all others should engage in the secret called exchanging oneself for others. Based on the wish to protect oneself and others from the fear of existence and the temptation of peace, it is taught that one must exchange oneself for others. Concerning the faults of clinging to self-cherishing and qualities of holding others dear, the same scripture, which is the way of a bodhisattva, states, however much happiness exists in this world, all of it springs from wishing for happiness of others. However much suffering exists in this world, all of it springs from desiring one's own happiness. What need is there for lengthy explanations? The childish work for their own benefit, the sages act for the welfare of the others. Consider the difference between these two. We don't need to speak much. We don't need to explain much. Just simply make the observation of how the mundane beings strive for happiness for themselves versus where the sages, the noble ones, would act for the welfare of the others. That's the distinctions between the two. As for the faults of not exchanging oneself for others, the same scripture states, which is the way of the Bodhisattva, if one does not authentically exchange one's own joy for others' misery, enlightenment will not be accomplished, nor will there be any happiness in samsara. The benefit of exchanging oneself for others are also implicitly demonstrated, and the same scripture teaches many lines of reasoning as to how one, for instance, avoid pitfalls in the practice of exchanging oneself for others. Exchanging oneself for others means mainly that by interchanging the two attitudes, cherishing the self and rejecting others, we need to learn how to, instead of doing that, we need to learn to cherish others as dearly as oneself, and that completely disregard the self as though it were other. That's how we need to practice. Concerning this, from the precious garland of the middle way, may all their evil ripen upon myself, and may all my virtue without exception ripen upon them. May all the others enjoy my happiness, and may all of the other suffering ripen on myself. The way of the Bodhisattva states also, I should give myself to others and apprehend others as myself. Moreover, from the mind training, I, the root of evil karma, is a thing to be thrown far away. Other, the source of enlightenment, is a thing to be embraced tightly. This is constantly recited by the great masters. Lord Atisha said that when the faults of confusion, attachment, and aversion are about to arise, train in the mind that exchanges oneself for others. This particular shloka is very similar to the Langri Tampa's teaching in the 8 verses of training the mind. But over here, it points out that the Langri Tampa's teaching was in fact the teaching given by Lord Atisha, because Lord Atisha was about 1000 CE, and then after his passing, then Langri Tampa was born after Lord Atisha's passing, to offer the others the victory and to take the failures of others as oneself. That is the teaching given by Atisha. And he continues to give all the happiness there is to others. Take all the suffering there is upon yourself. Give profit and victory to others. Take loss and defeat upon yourself. Chengagwa said, all worldly beings hold themselves more dear than others, but we need to regard others as more dear than ourselves. The great master's teachings are so concise. However, the teaching is so profound. As a justification, he taught extensively about the faults of clinging to self-cherishing and the qualities of holding others dear. Let's stop here today.
Jirga nanjira long chupa yi chupam solen roa churvara